I'd like to have Ava Yaskill please join me on stage. Ava is a partner at Norton Rose and a member of the Committee for the Advancement of Girls and Women. Ava focuses on mergers and acquisitions, and her work takes her to China, London, and the U.S. And Ava was really the driving force behind having Norton Rose become a partner of the Girls 20 Summit. Ava will be interviewing 3 extraordinary women who will be sharing their secrets, we hope. This is sort of where we really get down into it, you know? We are calling this final session, If I Knew Then What I Know Now. So you've met Belinda Stronach, international businesswoman, philanthropist, and former cabinet minister. Belinda, please come up on stage. Joining Belinda and Ava is Tish Clyde. Tish is with the GE Healthcare and leads the L&E team globally. She comes to the summit from the UK and is described as a history buff, a legal eagle, and dedicated to advancing healthcare. So Tish, please join us on stage. Eloise Hewson also works in the area of mergers and acquisitions and is with Chartis Europe. I hope I said that okay. Eloise is from this great city and has been active in the empowerment of girls and women, most recently with the Women's Economic Forum. Eloise, please join us on stage. So, Ava, we look forward to your interview of these amazing women, and please, you've got them captive for a little while, so we want to hear the really nitty-gritty of if what they knew then, you know, they knew now would be, what would be different. Thank you.
I look forward to hearing it too. So, if I knew then what I know now, this is a statement I guarantee you each and every one of us will ponder at least once in our lifetimes. It applies to the sacred. If I only knew then, it would be the last time I spoke to a loved one, as well as the profane. If I only knew then that investing in something called Apple would be much more than a healthy food choice. It's something that reflects a missed opportunity, as well as a possibility for a second chance. But reflecting on if I knew then what I know now is most apt today, right here, right now, speaking to each and every one of you who are on the cusp of so many great things, starting with being here at this summit, and who have the whole life ahead of you. You are the perfect audience for this panel. Norton Rose, a global law firm of which I'm so lucky to be part of, is proud to present to you 3 extremely accomplished and interesting women who have learned and earned their way to the top, and so graciously agreed to share their time with us today to give us some insights, secret stories, personal experiences that they've learned along the way. So I present to you, If I Knew Then What I Know Now. So let's get right into it. We've introduced our panelists. So, Tish, what one thing might somebody have told you when you were 18 years old that could have opened your mind or given you a different outlook in a positive way?
Well, I think the one thing that I wish I'd known then that I know now is to be a change agent, to have no fear about changing the status quo. I'm going to tell you a story about my career. It's really in 2 parts. I'm a lawyer, and after qualifying, I went through the traditional route of joining a law firm, where you kind of join at the bottom rung as a trainee and work your way up to become a partner. And I'll never forget, as I was in that law firm, a male partner turning to me one day, and he said, "It will be over my dead body that we make a woman a partner in this firm." So I thought that was a vote of confidence in me. But anyways, moving on, I did become a partner in a law firm. And when I was on maternity leave with my second child, so I had a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, I got a call from a headhunter whether I'd be interested to go and work for GE as a European Labour and Employment Council for GE Capital. So my first reaction was, that's extraordinary. Nobody in their right mind would give a new mum a job that's going to involve a European remit and involve travel. And so I thought, well, you know, what have I got to lose? And I went along for the interview. And I was so impressed that it didn't seem to be an issue for anybody in GE that I was a working mom. And I took the job, and I have never looked back in terms of working for a company. And there's a lot of discussion on the previous panel about being a change agent. And what I'm here to tell you is that, you know, private companies, multinationals, recognize that 3.3 billion women are potential or actual customers. And we want to represent our customers in our workforce. And in GE, we have a huge commitment towards women.
You know, I can tell you something. If a male partner in our law firm said, "You're not going to become a woman partner over my dead body," there might be one dead body, but it wouldn't be the woman. So, moving on to Eloise. How about you? What one thing might have changed your outlook?
Yeah, when I was 18, I would have liked to have that piece of advice that was implicit at that time, but not very explicit. I was networking, networking, networking. Just free yourself about your own, you know, shyness, maybe, and just dare to network, see people, go to events, and just express yourself and be yourself and free yourself. It was implicit in my education, of course. My parents, my mom wouldn't say like, be shy and be reserved, this is how you should behave, but it was just not expressed. And I think that would have been a very good piece of advice, either on my personal life and social life, and on my professional life. So I was a lawyer too. I was also working for an American law firm, and I switched then. And I think that that piece of advice would have helped me more in the law firm and also in my later professional life.
Thank you. Now, before you think you can't be a successful lawyer in a law firm, you can. I just want to put that on the table. Belinda, it's often been said that there can be no real success without having experienced failure. How would you say your definition of success has changed over the years?
Well, you mentioned the word failure. I don't really know that word, failure. To me, there really are no failures. And a failure, I guess, the way I would perceive or look at failure would be a lesson learned for the future. So I would not have arrived at this stage had I not taken certain decisions at that time. But I think I view things perhaps in a way that I'm very conscientious about time and making the most of time. And because we can plan for the future, but we don't always know if we're going to be here for the future. But if I have a difficult decision to make, I often think, well, I try to picture myself when I'm 80. I don't dwell on that too long. But I think, okay, when I'm 80 and I look back on my life and my career and what's important at that moment. Say, this is going to sound a little morbid, but you're about to take that last breath. And at that point in time, what is important to you at that stage? And everybody has to define that for themselves. But sometimes if you have a big decision to make, project yourself in the future and think, okay, how would I view that decision, you know, when I'm 80 looking back on it? And I think that's perhaps what's led me to take some decisions and some risks that some people might say, what inspired you to do that? And I thought, well, you know, if I look at myself when I'm 80 and I look back, I would have regretted not taking advantage of that moment. And even though the path was unclear, I would have regretted not being able to try. So maybe that is what I would consider a failure, not wanting to do something but never trying to do it.
And you know, and sometimes you look back and you say to yourself, why did I think at that time that it was too hard to do something, or maybe I wasn't young enough to do it? You know, do it. You try it. And then you'll work it out in the end. How about you, Eloise? What about you? How has your definition of success changed over the years?
The success is success for me is something that is changing over your life. You can be successful at one point of your life, and then once you get there, you just want something more. This is how it works. So being successful for me, I think, is just to put yourself in a position that will just allow you to achieve your objectives, whatever those objectives can be, whether or not they can be effectively achieved. So the success of the project, of the objective, is something else, in my view. But just being in the position and putting yourself in a position to just be able to reach your objectives is already something. And that incurs different things. First of all, that you trust yourself, which is very important. You have, self-confidence. Then that people around you trust you. And then that you have effectively objectives that you want to reach. So for me, this is what I think is being successful. And this is what I experience, during my life, professional or personal as well.
Sort of a question to move on to. What do you think of success? How has that changed for you?
I think it's very personal. Let me tell you another story. I was at a conference recently of lawyers, and I was in the queue for the restroom, and I don't know why it is, but the queue for the ladies is always much longer and slower than the queue for the men. Anyway, but I thought I'd take this opportunity, and I turned to the woman in front of me to introduce myself and network in the queue. And she said, "Do you remember me, Tish?" And I looked, and I was sort of blank for a moment. And she said, I came to see you for some career advice 10 years ago. And at that point in time, I was in publishing, and I was knowing that I wasn't satisfied with my career, and I was really interested in becoming a lawyer. But, by that time, I was in my late 20s. And I was really concerned about, whether I was going to make a big mistake, making that kind of investment-changing career. And I came to see you and asked for some advice. I said, "Well, what did I say?" And she said, "Well, you told me to ask myself 3 questions. And the first question was around what I felt passionate about and how I would define success." So it's very personal. You cannot prescribe what is successful in my eyes to what's successful for Eloise or for Belinda. So I said to her, think about what is success for you and what do you feel passionate about. And the second thing I told her to think about and ask herself the question is, how determined was she to achieve that? If she's passionate about being a lawyer, if she really thinks that's what's going to be success for her, how determined was she to reach that goal? And then finally, it was how much was she committed to work hard to achieve that goal? And she said anyway, she thought about those questions, and she made the decision to change and to become a lawyer. And it was just the most wonderful moment.
What a brilliant choice. So, next question. I'm about to give you a quote from Abraham Lincoln, but in doing that, I think I have to say something first. I like to use quotes, so I was looking for a quote. And I was looking for a quote, and I gotta say, why is it that 98% of the quote are quote from men? I don't know, call me crazy, but I think through history, about 50% were women. So I'm looking at all you again and saying, I expect to see some quotes coming in the future that have your names next to it. So, going back to dear old Abraham Lincoln, he famously said, and perhaps prophetically said, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years that make your life and that count. So, what would your advice be to our G20 delegates about achieving the most in life? Belinda.
My advice would be, first of all, do some soul searching. Figure out what you're really passionate about. And when you figure that out, work hard. Apply yourself. And you're going to have days where you want to give up. We all have those days, but just plow through it. Stick with it if it's something you're extremely passionate about. The second thing would be, maybe it's partly in determining that passion, is don't wait for all the stars to be perfectly aligned before you make your move. And perhaps I've done that on too many occasions. But you will, if you feel strongly enough about it, you'll figure it out as you go along. And the pieces will start to fall into place. So because if you wait for everything to be completely perfect before you make that start, you won't do it. And the third thing I would say is have a dream. Because if you don't have a dream, how are you going to achieve it? So dream as big as you can. Don't be afraid to dream as big as you can. And then perhaps even double it. And just apply yourself, work hard, and just get started. And once you're actually able to verbalize to others and articulate what your passion is and what your dream is, you'll see it will start unfolding and it will start happening.
That's good advice. Tish?
So in GE, we have a very strong women's network, which, you know, all of the women in it feel very proud of. And we use a model called the PI model. P for Pi is performance, and that's a given, and it's non-negotiable. And just as Belinda said, it's something you have to work at and develop that domain expertise, something you feel passionate about, whatever it is. Second is image. I for image. And this is something I think we've heard a lot about today that maybe is something that women do less of naturally. And Eloise made the point about the importance of networking, developing your own brand, your own authentic brand, whatever that is. And finally, it's around exposure. It's around getting out of your comfort zone, looking for those opportunities outside of your day job, outside of something that you feel comfortable doing, to really show what you can do.
Great. So life's not always a bed of roses. There's sometimes obstacles along the way. And then the next question is for Eloise. How have you dealt with what at the time seemed an insurmountable obstacle? How did you push forward?
Well, first I would say that insurmountable is not a French word. No, just kidding. This is impossible, that is not a French word. Secondly, I would say that there's insurmountable, it's insurmountable. So by definition, you cannot get over it. So what can you do about insurmountable obstacles? You can either go around it, or you can just change your goal because you think that the goal does not worth it because you've just changed your mind. So either ways, for example, sorry about that, Eva, but I changed my goal in being a partner in a law firm. I just thought it was, I don't know whether it was insurmountable. It probably was at the time I was trying to, maybe. But I just decided that was not worth it. So I switched to AIG at that time. This is now what is Chartist. That was AIG. Well, we had some other obstacles, in the meantime. But anyway, so I changed the goal. Or you can take another route, and that might take you longer. But the idea, if you really want to reach that goal, is just to take the time and head for it.
Tish? How about for you? Have you had something that seemed really quite a burden, but you worked your way through it?
Well, I think one word that is underutilized in the workplace, and I think it's a real strength, is resilience. Belinda mentioned the fact that, it's not about failure, it's about, learnings. And I think that helps each one of us grow as leaders, to look at, issues, challenges that we face, and how we deal with them makes us stronger and better leaders. Certainly, I've had many challenges in my career, and I'd say they've helped me develop as a lawyer, but more importantly, as a leader.
Great. Let's go into the next question. You look back, hindsight's 20/20, and I think that actually is true in many ways. And you don't realize which path you could have taken along the way until it's already passed. The next question is, what is the best decision that you've made to this point in your life that you think has impacted your life, your personal life, your career, whatever it would be? Belinda.
Well, probably the most important decision I had to take was to have children, and I have two outstanding children that are no longer children. They're 18 and 20. So, but aside from that, I have taken some decisions that are sort of a fundamental shift in what I was doing day to day, and sometimes it takes a while for clarity to let's say, for things to gel, to be certain that this is the right move. And I know when I have a big decision sometimes to make, I don't necessarily force that to happen right away, because I know that eventually I will come to a decision that feels right. And I think certainly the older I get, I rely more and more on my gut. And I will not do something that doesn't feel comfortable on a gut level. So when you're younger, maybe you rationalize it in a logical way. This is how I must do things. But the older I get, I say, you know what? It's got to feel right in my gut. And I think that is so important because you won't be happy, first of all, if it's something that's inconsistent with what you really feel in your heart. And second, you won't be passionate about it. And I don't think it will be something that you will really do as well. And certainly, you know, in my time in politics, I took some decisions that were contrary to my party or the leader, or anyway, we won't dwell on that too much.
They were very interesting decisions.
Yes, and people said, how could you make those moves knowing that you would be subject to severe criticism and scrutiny at the time? And I said, well, it's quite simple. I'd look myself in the mirror and I'd say, did I make the right decision? Did I follow my heart? Did I follow my principles? Was it, you know, consistent with how I felt in my heart and in my gut? And then I think you can take very tough decisions if you really are honest with yourself.
And there's very little that you realize as you get older. We're both very young, we're 29. But you realize as you get older,
than I am.
there's very few decisions that if they're wrong, you can't change. I mean, and I think you have to live life a little bit to understand that.
Yeah, and in business, I was used to say, look, you can make money. That's not the hard part. It's making reputation. And I think that's something to also be very conscious of as you go forward. There are no shortcuts. Be prepared to work very hard at what you want to achieve, but it's much easier to work hard at something that you're very passionate about.
Excellent point. Eloise, how about you? What's the best decision that you think, at least one of them?
I think that we women are always torn and are always facing dilemmas, either professionally or personally. Of course, and let's be romantic for once, come on. The best decision I probably made was to get married with my husband that I love, that is actually working for GE, by the way. Yeah, and he has a whole team of nice women working with him and above him as well. So it was probably the best decision, even though I knew that he was traveling a lot, so that would mean that I couldn't, afford to travel for my professional life. So I made that decision. We have evolved. We have found ways so that I can travel too, and I can also have like international involvement. And I think he helped me a lot in, he supported me in making a career after I switched to be a lawyer, to get he switched as well. He was a lawyer as well. and well, that was one of the key decision in my personal and professional life also, because they're both linked in a way. And the second decision probably that I made when I switched from the law firm to AIG at that time is to go into the business, and maybe not in the legal department per se. Because being in the business just taught me how to, once again, express myself, get on the ground, sell something, because when we are in the business, we are there to sell something. So selling something is not an easy task, and this is something that I didn't know when I was a lawyer, and so it helped me a lot also to, I would say, flourish on my communication skills.
Great. So sort of the flip side of that's sort of what's one of the best decisions. If you had to do it all over again, what one thing might you change? Let's go to Tish.
Oh, gosh. This is completely honest. I really don't have regrets over the past, because you know what? I can't change it. I took the decisions that I did. Some were better than others. I can tell you the best decision that I made was going to work, in a business and flourishing in that environment professionally. And the best decision I took personally is as these women have said, is having a family. And nobody can, kind of predict that.
I said that because my kids are probably watching.
How about you, Belinda?
Looking back, I don't regret anything. Like I said, otherwise I just wouldn't be here where I am today. So there's no point in regretting anything. I think perhaps I would like to have done more, not less, certainly. And the other thing is I would say is as you grow older, you become maybe more comfortable in some ways. And if you look back, and I would say this to my kids, don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. That's the only thing that will hold you back is the fear, perhaps in your own mind, to say, you know what, I'm maybe not quite ready for this yet, or I'm not quite qualified. You just start doing it. And like I said, be prepared to work hard, but it will be the fear within yourself that holds you back. So I think perhaps to be less fearful and to do more things, take more risks, not less risks.
Eloise, and not even a regret question, but if there's sometimes you could change something, you might.
Well, I don't think that I have any regret. Just, I would say that maybe I could have dared more. There's a say, I think, that says, fake it, you'll make it. As long as you remain in line with your integrity, I would say that just dare. Dare any routes that are just in line with your integrity and what your guts tell you.
No, it's an excellent point. I mean, you don't know how far you can get until you try to get there.
And enjoy it. Have fun with life. I mean, you're the artist, let's say, that's going to create this painting, this canvas. And it's up to you to design what kind of life you want to have and how you want to see it unfold.